And welcome everyone to a special edition of Channel 6. We have got a legend here with us, ESPN NFL analyst Herm Edwards. Herm, thank you so much for joining us here. And you're here tonight to talk at UCA, and what's the message you're looking to get across?
Well, simply, like in football, you have to have a game plan for your life. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We are all involved in athletics in some shape or form when we grow up. But obviously when you enter college, I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to graduate rather than trying to have a game plan for your life. And I think that's a part of it too. So I'm going to really comment on that and try to mention some things. When one time, a long time ago, I actually went to college, believe it or not. And so you have to have a plan. And I think most people grow up with goals, and that's fine. You know, goals are very important. You set goals when you're young, but a goal without a plan is a wish. And you have to make sure you have a plan. That we are all a collection of our choices. I think the choices you make now will really have a lot to do with dictating your future. You have to make good choices. You have to surround yourself, what I call, with a huddle. No different like in football. There's a huddle of people that you trust, you confide in. Your friends basically will tell you when you're doing wrong. If you huddle yourself with people that are always giving you the right answers, in other words, patting you on the back and telling you you're good at everything, that's probably the wrong crowd to be around. And we get to choose our friends. I always say this: don't let them choose you. So there'll be a collection of thoughts that we'll kind of go through a process really of building a game plan, not only for you to be successful in college, but in life. And I think that's very important.
All right, and do you feel like more needs to be done to mentor, especially your field, athletes? Do you feel more needs to be done to mentor those people specifically in college?
Well, I think it starts at an earlier level than that, really. It starts in high school. You think about mentorships. Basically, when you're an athlete, your head coach is really your guardian parent. I mean, especially if you're in athletics, you're around that guy more than your parents most of the time. If you play football, basketball, you run track, you're around a coach. So someone's always coaching you, and that's one thing. So you learn a lot of lessons from that. But here again, as you continue to grow, you need people around you that will give you wisdom. That's very important, because the one thing you don't realize is this: as you grow up, you don't have experience. And the hardest thing about experience is you get the lesson first before you get the experience. And there's pitfalls in that. We all fall short sometimes. We all make wrong choices. And when you're young, you can make some bad choices and survive it. But as you get older, the consequences are very difficult when you make bad choices. So I think the choices we make and how we make those are very important.
All right, and you started out you really got into the NFL, went into coaching, now at ESPN now. Did you see your career going this way to where you would be mentoring like this?
Yeah, you really do, because when you think about being a player, once you come out of the player role and you coach, and then from there you are doing a mentorship. You know, we're all ambassadors when you're part of the National Football League of the game. You're trying to promote the game, you're trying to protect the game, and you're trying to give back something to the game. How you give that back is through the players that you coach, the ones you're around. Now for me, I have a platform, a different platform than coaching, actually a bigger platform, because I work for ESPN. And so that's worldwide. So when I'm on, I'm always talking about different things in life, whether it's just football, sports in general. Athletics is a part of our fiber. We know that. And I just think those are correlated to how we grow up, how we live. There's correlations in the business world and school that have a lot to do with athletics. Mm-hmm. You know, it's about discipline. It's about goal setting. It's about plan. It's about choices. All these things become a part of who you are. And I think it's very important. I think we don't realize this sometimes when we're young. You know, time is always an important thing, because I look at time this way. We all get the same amount of time. How you choose to use your time is up to you. Sometimes we waste a lot of time. And when you waste time, it reminds me of this story. You know, our life is not a dress rehearsal. And at times we think, because we're young, when youthful, well, I'll just wait. Time never stops. It's continuous. It keeps going and going. And every time you make a decision, you have to understand there's time involved in that. There's choices that we make, and you have to make sure that you're on the right path.
You had a mentor, really seemingly a mentor, in Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
Do you think he was really the reason you got into this line, really what he did for you?
Well, Tony and myself, we came out together in college. I've known Tony since 1977. I'm dating myself now. So we played in all-star games together, and we had similar viewpoints in life, and we became very good friends. And we kind of travel the road together. In other words, he played pro football for a shorter time than I was involved in it. And then from there, he started coaching. Obviously, when I went with him to Tampa, we worked together. But before that, we worked together in Kansas City. So we had the same philosophy on really we wanted to give back to the game of football because football was very good to us. We wanted to make sure that we help players understand that football is not a career. See, so some players get into football think it's a career. Football's not a career. It's an opportunity. One play and you're done. Your career is over. So when players come in the league, I always suggest this, look, this is not a career. It's an opportunity. Every day you go to practice could be your last day. You never leave football on your own terms. High school football, you graduate, you go to college. College football, you graduate, hopefully you can get to the pros. If you go to the pros, it's not a hobby. It's an occupation. The only way a guy leaves the locker room in pro football is you have to take his job. That's a difference. I mean, you come into pro football as a young athlete, a lot of potential, but there's a grown man sitting across from you that has a family, that has experience. You might have a lot of talent, but you don't have experience. And then the next thing is you have to take the man's job. Well, he's not going to give a job to you. I mean, that's what some players don't realize. That's why the life expectancy of a pro football player is about 3.2 years at most. There's only 1,800 of them in the whole world, and players don't understand that sometimes. Only 46 get to dress during the course of a game. There's 53 guys on the roster, but only 46 get to dress. So all those things come into play. And if you don't understand that coming into the league, you're in there for about a year or two, and you see guys, 25% of the league turns over every year. It's constant. There's always more constant players coming in and out, in and out. That's how the league operates.
I was reading just a few days ago talking about maybe widening the field, kind of like in the CFL. What do you think the NFL does something maybe like this or something else? What do you think they do next?
Well, I think first of all, you make players aware, and it goes back to coaching. It goes back to how we have to take the head out of it. You really do. You can't hit people with your head, period. And then there's a certain spot you have to tackle at. We understand that anymore. It's more difficult for a veteran guy to understand that because he's been coached at a young age to tackle a certain way. Now you're asking him to break a habit. As we know, habits are very difficult to break. So that's why some of the veterans are struggling. But kids growing up now, if they're taught properly, they won't have that problem. So we're all creatures of habit. Our habits kind of dictate who we are and what we become. So if we learn at an earlier age how to tackle properly, safety is going to be more involved. We're going to talk about it a lot. Those are the things you have to do. As far as widening the field, that's one thought. I don't know that so much. I think the way football is played anymore, it's an open game. When you spread the formation out and you throw the football down the field, there's going to be collisions. Right. So I understand, say we widen the field. Well, to me, you get more speed on the widener field. I mean, I run faster if I can run 10 more yards and build up speed. Guess what? That's going to help me hit a guy. So I don't know if that's the key. I think the key is really educating players and coaches how to tackle properly and make the game more safe.
After your coaching career, after your playing career, you moved on to ESPN and have really become quite popular on their NFL shows now. We were speaking beforehand about Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith,
yes.
Those kind of guys that yell at each other. They're a little better at it, but there are some people who can't really control themselves. They say something that gets them in trouble. Now, how do you keep that kind of air of unpredictability yet be so measured in everything you say on TV?
Well, because the red light is like these cell phones. I grew up with no cell phones.
Right.
So you never had to worry about pressing send. I think more people press send and realize after they press it, they're in trouble, right? It's embarrassing. And I think when you sit before the camera, you have to realize that the masses are watching what you say. The best thing you have in life is your last name. It's what your parents give you. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that as we get older. We actually think as we get older that name belongs to us. It really doesn't. It belongs to your parents. And every time you say something out of line, not only does it reflect you, it reflects your parents. And that's pretty important to me because you're going to give that last name to your children. And you want to make sure you give it to them in good standings. So, we can say, well, we made a mistake and all that. We make mistakes at times, but we have to make sure that words are powerful. They're very powerful. And we have to make sure when what comes out of our mouth, we want to make it the right way. We want to say the right thing. Being an analyst, you're an analyst, not a critic. A lot of guys want to be critics. I'm not a critic. I'm an analyst. I kind of see it a lot of different ways. I see it as a coach. I see it as a former player. I've never seen a player or a coach actually practice all week to fail. They don't do that. They practice and they prepare to try to win. Sometimes it doesn't work out. So when I look at things, I look at it that way. I don't look at it as a guy puts all this preparation all week and really he goes out there to play bad. I don't think so. So I kind of see it that way.
Now, ESPN has really revolutionized the 24-hour sports news cycle. And
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain quarterback that may have graduated from Florida may get talked about a little
Yes.
much, or certain other players. How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it interesting?
Well, you look at the players, whoever they are, and I always look at the players' positives. I coach that way. I just think we like the negative thing because you can comment on it. It's almost like we live a life where we try to have success, and once we have success, the next thing is, can you knock him off the pedestal? I don't believe in that. I believe that when you have success, there's going to be failure, but along with your failures, how you react to those things. Life to me is about inconvenience. It's never about convenience. It's about inconvenience. How do you handle inconvenience? And I think that happens in sports because you're always in front of the camera. That's part of it. All your failures, they show it. They replay it over and over and over. How do you handle that, I think, is very important. And I think if you're a guy that stands up before the microphone and before the camera and just tells the truth, people respect you more for that.
We were talking earlier about your mentoring, about giving advice to people. A lot of young broadcasters probably going to end up watching this video. What advice do you have for those guys?
I would say this. Don't try to make your career off of people's misfortunes. And be yourself. I think that's probably the best thing I could give a person is you can't be somebody you see on television. You have to bring your own personality to it. You have to have passion for what you do. Make sure you're thorough. Don't go off just emotionally. I think you have to look at it when you analyze something or you say something. That could be your child you're talking about. You have to realize that. Words are hurtful. And I think sometimes we sit in a position where we can say something, and you have to be careful. There's a way you can do it where people understand it. You can be critical, but you don't have to be demeaning. And I think if you do it that way, players will respect you, fans will respect you, and more than that, you'll probably respect yourself.
Last two questions here. We were kind of having some fun around the newsroom, seeing what do we really want to ask Herman Edwards. And really, first of all, do you see yourself ever leaving ESPN and trying to get back in the coaching game again?
No, I've had opportunities to go back professionally in college, and I'm set. I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. I have a wonderful platform. I have 2 little girls to raise. That's kind of important to me. I've been in pro football for over 30 years, so I've earned my stripes. I like to be around my little girls. That's kind of important, too.
Definitely. And last thing, from our marvelous producer back here, John Walls, he's a big Eagles fan. So
okay.
Grew up knowing all the highlights and, the miracle at the Meadowland, play you're most known for. Deshaun Jackson also had his little version of Miracle Meadowland, and that not a lot of people in here right now, if you really want to set it out. Whose was better?
Well, obviously, Deshaun's was better in this sense. It was more dynamic, dramatic. He was in high definition. Okay, they show it over and over. There was no ESPN when I did the Miracle of Meadowlands. But I've always told Deshaun this, and we're good friends. I said, after I did mine, they blew the stadium up. So mine might be more long-lasting. You can't play in that stadium anymore.
Right.
Where his stadium, they can play in that stadium a lot. But it was a great play. It was kind of ironic because the day he made the play, as soon as he made it, my phone started ringing. I was on every talk show you can imagine in America. But his was good. It was a punt return.
Right.
Mine was more of, really? This just happened? It was kind of one of those deals. But they're both good plays.
I'll have to be sure to try and get him down here to Central Arkansas.
I'll make sure I tell him that next time I see him.
Yeah, make him get down here to UCA. Well, thank you, Herm, so much for joining us. ESPN NFL analyst Herm Edwards joining us for this very, very special Channel 6 presentation. Thanks for joining us.